No, I didn't think I did.
From Fridays for Futures, Hon Aotearoa. The last 8 years have been the hottest on record. Yet our love of fossil fuels has not abated. Fires and floods are accelerating, but governments drag their feet. Thank you all to the presentation to MP Eugenie Sage on behalf of Parliament of this petition calling for fortnightly briefings from government on actions they are taking on the climate crisis. Yes, this is our nuclear-free moment, and yet the Prime Minister actually removed methane from the climate bill. First, we're going to have a few words from people prepared to go to jail to draw attention to the climate crisis. There are, sadly, many MPs and public who still don't get it. First up is a great-grandmother, climate hero Anne Smith. Over to you, Anne.
This is so out of my comfort zone. I'm a doer, I'm not a speaker, and yet I find myself here, and I can't think of anywhere else where I need to be more than to be here speaking for my family, speaking for humanity, and speaking for all those biodiversity, the creatures, the trees, everything we think that makes life beautiful, that is under risk if we don't do something quickly. I'm in my mid-70s, and next month I'm going to have my 5th great-granddaughter.
Wow.
And I look at all those people that somewhere along the line I found as family, and 50 years ago it wasn't what I thought I would be, but I'm here, and I have all those wonderful people in my life. And I want for them to have the necessities of life. I've gone past believing that they'll have the quality of life I had when I was a child. The waters will never be what they were like when I was a child. The community that I felt as a child seems to be divided now, and that's sad. Sad for me, sad for my children. I'm here in Wellington because I chose 2 weeks ago to be part of the Restore Passenger Railway. We have sent submissions, we have protested, we've had 10,000 school children out on the streets, we've had ourselves arrested, we've had people doing starvation in these grounds. And yet, really, all I've seen to this enormous, what I see as a bushfire crisis, is about a bucket of water. So I chose to be part of the group that sat on the roads. I didn't want to stop the Wellingtonians getting to work. I'm a working class person. I know you've got to go and make an income. I know it's hard out there. But what I wanted to do was just to say we are desperate enough to do this. And because of that, we went to court, and our charges and our bail is really excessive. And what's my crime? My crime is that I want a future for my family, your family, and everybody's family. Somewhere where we've got food, water, shelter, and peace. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carol Cohen from Extinction Rebellion Tamaki Makaurau.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. It is my honour and privilege to be here on the steps of Parliament talking with Eugenie and about trying to get some decent action over the climate crisis. I can't speak more than what Anne has just said about the desperate need. We have been, I always cry when I think about where we've got to with this climate crisis. It's just wrong, wrong, wrong. We are desperate to get action. We created the Values Party 70 odd years ago. Or was it 50 odd years ago? Decades ago. We couldn't get into Parliament, so we changed the parliamentary voting system. That's huge. We got the Greens established and into Parliament. Wow. We've kept up the protest outside. We give submissions, we protest, we have marches over and over and over and over. And what does it do? A tiny voice in Parliament, and we get incremental change when it needs to be massive. We've just heard from Anne how massive it needs to be. We've heard from the UN Secretary General say we've got it like a suicide pact. How dare we? This government, this Labour government, as a result of the students' marches, declared a climate emergency. You wouldn't know. So this petition, which had the backing of Extinction Rebellion Tamaki Makaurau, initiated by Bernard, who we're going to hear his words shortly, is calling for regular fortnightly press conferences like we did for the COVID, where the press could actually be saying to government, what are you doing? Our emissions are rising. Why? What are we doing to get them down? We need them zero. If we want 1.5 degrees, we actually need zero emissions by 2025. We've lost that. It's awful. We're on track for 3.5 degrees, which is disastrous. And we sit here in the sun and go, let's have a picnic, it's all fine. So my thrilling delight to be here, to be able to talk with you, Eugenie, and add to your strength, and Ricardo, and add to your strength in the House, and know that we're right behind you outside. Thank you.
I should have acknowledged Ricardo being here earlier. Thank you. Next we're going to hear from the author of The Climate Dispossessed, Justice for the Pacific in Aotearoa, ? Please welcome environmental lawyer Teal Crossan.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi o te wā, tēnā koutou katoa, kei te mihi hou, ki te mana whenua o tēnei rohi, kei te mihi hou ki a koutou, ngā mihi moa tō kaha. My name is Teal Crossan, I'm an environmental barrister and international lawyer, and I'm deeply committed to transforming our laws so we have a stable climate so everyone can thrive. We can't do that if we don't have an engaged public, an informed public, and we need the government to be sharing what it's doing on climate change. One of the problems with responding to the climate crisis that we currently have is greenwashing, or silent greenwashing, or green hushing. Because it leads the public to think, if government isn't talking about what it's doing, to think that actually what it's doing is okay. They think, yeah, the government's got this. But I know, and you know, that the government doesn't have this. We do not have a legal system or enough policies in place to bring our emissions down domestically at a pace and scale and magnitude that will enable us to keep below 1.5 degrees Celsius. We are going to end up paying for offsets to meet our international climate commitments. I don't think that's good enough, and I don't think the public think that's good enough, and the government should be required to account for its lack of action. One of the problems is that there is a disconnect between the Climate Response Act and the rest of our law, where actually the decisions about climate mitigation happen. To give you a good example, Minister Woods issued oil and gas exploration permits in the Taranaki region, yet we know that if all of the existing oil and gas reserves were exploited, we would shoot past the imperative to stay below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Students took Minister Woods to court challenging that decision, and the High Court said no, it's actually unlawful to take into account the climate change imperatives underneath the Crown Minerals Act. We need those laws to be changed, and we need the Minister for Energy to be fronting up every fortnight to explain what she's doing to bring our emissions down. And we also need the Minister for Agriculture to be fronting up what is he doing to bring our emissions down, and the Minister for Transport. We have an Auckland Regional Transport Plan that will embed carbon emissions because it's building more roads and not planning for active and public transport. They won't do that because they don't want to be exposed from the inaction. But why don't they turn it around and make it an opportunity to sell and to share and to engage with the public and the media about what they are doing and what more they should be doing, and make it a positive experience, because we know that there is hunger in this country for people to do more on climate change, and we need the government to support that and front up to what it's doing. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Thank you so much. I think our last speaker is going to be Kaz from Fighters for Future.